Welcome to How's That Working For You with Dr. Suzette
and Sister Sophia.
Our show is designed to help you learn more about emotional, mental, and spiritual health.
Let's talk.
Welcome to How's That Working For You with Dr. Suzette
and Sister Sophia.
Today's show is about happiness. We are really going to tear into this topic, so make sure you get your pens and notepads ready to take notes.
Last week, we spoke about hurts that cause us emotional pain. So we want to get into something different, how we can rectify some of that emotional pain by dealing with our happiness. A lot of our emotional pain comes from being unhappy. Sometimes we might think it's the opposite way. Maybe our unhappiness comes from emotional pain, but a lot of times your pain comes from your emotional unhappiness. So we want to get into it a little bit more today.
And I also want to mention that we're going to have the program from last week available for you online soon on our Facebook page. And if you would like to interact with us during the show, you can find us on Facebook at How's That Working For You with Dr. Suzette and Sister Sophia. And while you're there, please feel free to give us your feedback and ask questions. Now remember, next week we'll be on the air live to answer your questions and take your calls and comments. But if you're near a computer now, please log on to our Facebook page. We'd love to hear from you. Now, one of the things that I want to mention to you in case you're a new listener is that I'm Dr. Suzette Sims, licensed psychologist and owner and director of Dayspring Counseling Services, and I am co-hosting with Sister Sophia Avery.
And I'm Sister Sophia Avery, owner of Christian Talk Therapy. I am a Christian therapist in practice in Bala Kenwood. I have groups and I do individual counseling, marriage counseling, and I provide training for lay counselors, and that's coming up soon.
And our show is designed to help you learn more about emotional, mental, and spiritual health. So let's get into our topic for today, happiness. We're going to talk about different types of hurt that most of us have encountered at some point in our lives.
And we're going to talk about how to find happiness after those hurts. So the first thing we want to talk about is what exactly is happiness? How do we define happiness? Some of us define it as a feeling. I feel happy, or I don't feel happy. And what we think of then is actually probably more of what happiness is an emotion.
Right. And a more formal definition, you know me, Miss, let me go research it and see what it says. Well, the dictionary says that happiness is a state of well-being and contentment, or a pleasurable or satisfying experience. Happiness is also termed as a mental or emotional state of well-being characterized by positive or pleasant emotions ranging from contentment to intense joy. So we have a lot of words there to describe what happiness means.
Right. And we also know that it, as you said, is a state of being. I am happy or I'm not happy. And when we look at both of those, do you think it's more of a you feel, or is it more of a state of being? I think it can be both.
Yeah.
It can be both.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? There's a religious perspective that actually talks about it being more of a state of mind, like Buddhists. One of the things that Buddhists believe, and I'm not a Buddhist, but it's something I've read about, is that they believe that happiness has more to do with our state of mind and depending on how we consider our circumstances. So they consider happiness to be achieved when you consider suffering as a part of life, and when your wanting or your wish that events were different kind of goes away and you can just accept things as they are. And if you can give up unproductive longings and learn to be mindful every day and just have a constant acceptance of your current reality. So really, Buddhists talk about happiness as a state of being, state of mind.
And actually, that's very close to how Christians should look at it. Not sure we all do look at happiness that way, but that's more of where we are headed today. So get ready, get your notepads and pens. We'll be giving you more information.
And, you know, another thing that I just want to mention as well is that the field of psychology actually has some stuff related to measuring happiness, right? There's actually a paper and pencil test that you can fill out, and it will tell you your level of happiness. And there are 3 different ones, and I'm not going to go through them, but there's the subjective happiness scale. there's the positive and negative affect schedule, and there's the satisfaction with life scale. So just so that you know, in the world of psychology, people have even created ways to measure how happy you are and what makes you happy.
Right. And those tools are helpful, definitely helpful to help you measure happiness. But, it still takes more than that to be happy.
Definitely.
So if you take one of those tools and you find out that you're really not happy, there has to be some other answer. And we know the answer is in your relationship with God through Jesus. So we're going to get into that a little bit more. So one of the things we want to talk about is
what are our expectations? And you know what? We use that word a lot. Have you noticed that? We talk about expectations almost every show.
I think it has come up in every show. What's your expectation for happiness?
Right. And a lot of us get our ideas of our expectations from happiness from society, right? Well, what does society say makes people happy? One of those things could be having a good relationship. That can make people happy. Or money. How many of us say, well, as soon as I come into this money, my life is going to be so much better.
Right. And how is that true for a lot of people who hit the lottery? Right. They say just the opposite. But that's what we think.
That's what we think. Also, I think getting what we want sometimes I think makes us happy. The ability to get what we want, right? So going back to resources, not just money, but people that we know. Knowing that we've pleased other people sometimes can make us happy. We can have an expectation that I'll be happy once people are happy with me. And the other thing I was thinking is just knowing that you've accomplished goals sometimes can make you feel happy. So the expectation of happiness that I just talked about comes a lot from just the way a person thinks about their situation in life.
Right. And that's our beliefs, what you believe about happiness is always the source of either your joy or your pain, what you think about it. Some people think, because of some disappointments in life, I'll never be happy. And that can be true. The Bible says, as a man thinketh, so is he. Right. If you believe you won't ever be happy, you probably won't ever be happy. You're right. If you believe that being happy is something you can achieve regardless of what you have or who you're with, then you're probably right.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people, Sophia, that get their idea of happiness from TV, right? So they'll look at a particular show and say, that's what my life should look like. And that is what happy is.
Right. The Huxtable syndrome. That's what I call it. When we get married, we imagine life with Cliff Huxtable, a doctor who's funny and who loves us to death and always home at night and brings us tea. And we find, we see think of the Huxtables. A lot of us didn't grow up in houses where there was a mother and father. We didn't see a marriage. So the marriage that we identify with most is the Huxtables, Cliff and Claire Huxtable.
Right. Or we compare our wives to Claire. And she's a lawyer. And so she's obviously successful. She dresses well. She carries herself well. She's always dressed up. You don't see Claire in no jeans. Like she usually had on a skirt and some heels, right? And then she's always home. Even though she's successful, she's always home, right? So men can have this idea of what a good or successful wife would be based on Claire.
Exactly. I think now the role model is Michelle Obama.
Oh, yeah, we love Michelle.
All men want a Michelle Obama. They see her as supportive and loving and generous and beautiful.
And well-dressed.
Michelle Obama. So
even
now,
with the bangs, depending on if you like the bangs or not.
Right. We kind of get our fantasy life from public figures.
Right.
Is that going to translate into your personal life? Probably not, because you don't really see their real life. You see what they show on TV, and they never show them arguing or coming into an issue with communication or disagreeing or how they resolve disagreement. They don't really show a lot of that on TV. So when it comes into your home and it's hard to get past it, we think, well, I'm unhappy.
Right. That's right. People come away with that idea.
Yeah.
Well, happiness is not a simple topic, is it?
No, it is not. We need to take a short break, after which we'll return to discuss what God says about happiness. You're listening to How's That Working For You with Dr. Suzette and Sister Sophia on Gospel Highway 11. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Do you have a child or relative preparing for their junior or senior prom this year? If so, wouldn't you like to have photos that would last a lifetime of that event? While you're shopping for your daughter's dress and shoes or your son's suit, while you're preparing the menu and booking their limo reservations, why not consider having a professional photographer photograph that special day? With TrueVine Photography's pre-prom packages, you'll be able to recall that day weeks, months, and even years from now with one of their professional hardback photo albums. But be sure to order more than one so you'll be able to one day hand that over to your child. Please contact Sean Sims with TrueVine Photography at 610-428-6469. That's 610-428-6469. Or contact him at TrueVinePhoto.com. Again, TrueVinePhoto.com to reserve your date. Please hurry, time is running out.
Christian Talk Therapy is a place where healing happens. Here at Christian Talk Therapy, we understand how hard it can be to open up and talk to someone else about your personal issues. But despite the uneasiness, it's much harder to keep living with emotional pain, frustration, and sadness. We hope that you'll take the first step and contact us on the web at ChristianTalkTherapy.com or by phone at 215-375-7879, extension 44. Schedule your first appointment. Call us today and start getting your healing.
Dayspring Counseling Services provides individual and group counseling services to adults, children, and couples. If you're feeling down, tired, depressed, if you struggle with anxiety or just stress, if it seems as though you're just coping with loss after loss, and if you're having trouble in your relationships and within your family, call one of our therapists today and set up an appointment. It may be helpful to you and your loved ones to seek help. Dayspring Counseling Services has locations in Bala Cynwyd, Exton, and Paoli, and our therapists can assist you with various problems in your life. Contact us today on the web at www.dayspringpa.com. Again, www.dayspringpa.com, or call us at 610-363-2088. Dayspring Counseling Services, helping to bring light into the lives of others.
And we're back. You're listening to How's That Working For You with Dr. Suzette and Sister Sophia. If you're just joining us, I'm Sister Sophia Avery, a Christian therapist and owner of Christian Talk Therapy. And my co-host is Dr. Suzette Sims, a licensed psychologist and owner of Dayspring Counseling Services. To make an appointment with either of us, please visit our websites at dayspringpa.com or christiantalktherapy.com. Also, if you want to interact with us live, please visit our Facebook page right now. Go to Facebook and in the search area, type in How's That Working For You with Dr. Suzette and Sister Sophia. We'll be available right now during the show to interact with you and answer your questions. So today we're discussing happiness.
And thus far, we have been talking about, well, what happiness is, how do we come up with our own ideas and definitions of what happiness is. And one of the things that I want to sort of start going into is, well, what robs us of happiness? What keeps us from experiencing whatever that thing is that we define as happiness? And one of the things that I think is in line with happiness being more than just a feeling, but a state of mind. And holding on to the idea of who we think we're supposed to be and not embracing who we are. So let me say that again. I think a lot of times people get robbed of their happiness when they hold on to that idea of who they think they should be rather than embracing who they are. And I like to think about that or talk about that with my clients as the ideal versus the real. And I will have a client sit down and we will go through and explore if we're talking about self-esteem, we're talking about their life, and I have them say, okay, well, what would the real you, or what's the ideal you? What do you imagine is the ideal life, or the ideal husband, or the ideal child? And then, well, what's the real? What do you have in reality? And just learning how to embrace accepting what they have and who they are. But a little bit later, we all overcome that and how to accept reality. But that is one of the things that I think robs us of happiness. What about you? What do you think?
And definitely accepting who you are and where you are is critical to being happy in life. But we also have some other issues that kind of center around God that rob us of our happiness. For example, one of the main ones that I see, actually, I'm going to give you my top two. The first one is impatience. Lord have mercy. And I have to count myself among those who have suffered with impatience. Can't wait. I cannot wait on the Lord. They call it what? A microwave society.
Microwave society.
Right. We grew up in the age of the microwave, and waiting drives us crazy. And we're like, Lord, how long exactly do you expect for me to wait? I prayed yesterday. I do not understand what the problem is. You heard me. You saw how sincere I was. What is the problem with my issues of life? Why can't you answer me?
Why aren't you fixing it yet?
Right. So to ask someone to wait, anywhere near what Abraham and Sarah did, like 25 years for Isaac to come. Oh, Lord, I may as well die.
Right.
May as well die. If I have to wait 25 years, I just want to die. And that's what some of my clients feel like. Oh, if I have to wait until I'm 30 to get married, then I just don't want to get married. If I have to wait until I'm 29 to have a baby, I just don't want a baby.
So it's just all or nothing.
Right. And then that's basically a decision to accept your unhappiness.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
So impatience is my first one that I run into the most. The second one is fear. Oh, Lord, fear. That has to be the biggest topic among my groups. I'm afraid it's not going to happen. Well, if I get it, what if I lose it? Or if I don't ask for it, what if I'm not good enough? What if God thinks I'm bad? What if God's not going to answer my prayer? The fear, Lord have mercy, the spirit of fear will rob you of every chance you have at happiness.
And I call that the what ifs.
Right.
I have people create what ifs. Make your list of what ifs.
And that's a fear. What if I, marry this woman and a better woman comes along? That's fear. And we know God did not give us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. So if we let that fear stay on us, your unhappiness will be your way of life, because the devil don't let up on you. He's going to make sure that you stay unhappy, right? He comes to steal, kill, and destroy. What is he stealing? Your joy and happiness.
Right. But we also want to remember with that fear is what Jesus said to us in the Bible, right? In John 14:1, one of the things that Jesus says, and I use this a lot, and I remember this a lot, just in my own life and in the lives of the people that I work with. He says, let not your heart be troubled. Let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. So with Jesus saying that, he's letting us know that we have a choice. You can choose to not let your heart be troubled, but you have to make that decision. It is a choice.
Right. And the spirit of fear is a spirit that can be bound and cast out. So once you get serious about getting rid of your spirit of fear, it's easy. You can conquer it. It takes consistent word wrapping and binding, but you can definitely conquer the spirit of fear.
Yes, you can.
The third thing I run into a lot that robs people of their happiness is disappointment. Feeling like God didn't answer your prayer, the plans that that you made for yourself, God did not allow to come to fruition, that God didn't save your grandmother, or he didn't save your mother, he didn't heal. The disappointment can sit on your chest and almost forbid you from having any happiness. Because you look at everything like, I hear a lot of people say, I'll pray for the best, but I expect the worst.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so if you approach everything with that doubt and disappointment in mind, and they do it, I'm doing that to protect my heart. Well, that defeats your prayer, because we know if we pray, we have to also believe.
Right. You can't have faith and fear at the same time.
Right.
They don't coexist.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So the disappointment is a fear, and it robs you of all chance of having happiness. So if you have any of those, impatience, fear, or disappointment, you probably will struggle with happiness.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm sitting here and I'm looking at you because I'm thinking, you mentioned those three things, and I'm thinking, okay, well, if you're human and if you're listening to what we're talking about right now on Gospel Highway 11, then you probably struggle with some of those at some level. So just recognize and think about whether or not it's going to be worth it for you to explore it, and whether or not it's something that you want to take some control over and empower yourself to create change in your life around those things.
Right. And that's definitely what counseling can help with, is helping you to dig around the root, find out where that is generating from in your life, what issues you have faced or tried to deal with that may have left some residue of fear, residue of impatience, or residue of disappointment. We could definitely find that out in counseling and do something about it.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? I think along with what you're talking about with disappointment is similar to shoulds, having different shoulds for your life and deciding what life should be, and then being disappointed when it doesn't come to pass because that should that you created maybe wasn't realistic or wasn't attainable, and then you're left with just this feeling like you failed and disappointment and then feeling unhappy.
Right. I can give you an example from my own life on that one. In 2006, 3 of my closest friends got married. And for those who don't know, I am in my 40s. So 2006, 3 of my closest friends got married, and one of my other ones got married in 2007. So out of the 5 of us, there were 5 of us that kind of hung together for the last probably 15 years. 4 of them got married. And I was thinking, Lord, what about me? What about me? Where's mine? I should be married too. I was going to church long before they were. I've been saved way longer than any of them. Why me? Where's mine? So the whole should thing caused an issue with me. I'm going to be transparent and authentic. Sister Sophia has been through some stuff, y'all. Sister Sophia has overcome, though. Thank you, Lord. But the shoulds in your life can really rob you of your joy. If you think you should be married by now, or I should have a child, or I should be finished with college by now, or I should have a home, or I should have more money in the bank, those shoulds rob you.
Yeah.
Because they keep you from being able to appreciate where you are. No, your life may not be like your friends. You may not have the things that your friends have, but that doesn't mean God doesn't have something else for you. What is he trying to do in your life?
Exactly. And when another big robber of happiness is comparisons. Exactly what you're talking about. When you compare your life and you get caught up in somebody else's story and how your story doesn't match with theirs and how you should be where they are, that is going to set you up for feeling disappointed. And it's not God's purpose for your life to be, and that he gifted all of us with something different. And if you're focused on someone else, you are not going to be paying attention to yourself, and you're not going to be paying attention to all of the blessings that God is giving to you on a daily basis, because you're spending too much time looking at other people.
Exactly. And comparing yourself. A lot of our clients say, well, it's natural. And it might be natural, but stop it. You can stop it. Stop doing it. All you have to do is control yourself and refuse to compare your life with anybody else's. You know what? I'm going to tell you this. You hear me on the radio now, but you don't want to carry my cross. You don't want to carry my cross with my mother and my grandmother, grandparents, my father dying before I was 21. You don't want to carry my cross. Mm-mm. So you hear me now. But like they say, you don't know where I've come from.
Right. You don't know anybody else's history or anybody else's story. You only know what you see. So you be very careful of who you're comparing yourself to, because you may not want to be, like Sophia just said, you don't want to carry somebody else's burden.
Right. And you don't know what's happening in somebody else's house. You may think that the couple next to you seems joyful and happy, but who goes out in public beefing with each other? You know, we try to keep our business at home and put on a happy face. So why would you want to show anybody your unhappiness? So be careful thinking somebody else has something that you don't. You have all that you need in order to be happy. You just have to accept it.
And that is one of the things that we're going to be exploring as well as we move along, is just learning how to accept the reality that we were given. And you are listening to Dr. Suzette and Sister Sophia on How's That Working For You here on Gospel Highway 11. And there are a lot of things that can block our happiness, as we were just talking about. But most, if not all, seem to stem from our beliefs and our behavior. That means we have the power to do something about our own happiness. And after this break, we'll give you some tools to help you get more happiness in your life. Well, this is Dr. Suzette
and Sister Sophia.
And you're listening to How's That Working For You with Dr. Suzette and Sister Sophia on Gospel Highway 11. And we're here every Friday from 1 to 2. So don't miss this next segment. We will be right back. If you are interested in learning how to live authentically with yourself and with other people, Dayspring Counseling Services has an adult group for you. This group would be helpful for you if you are interested in personal growth, learning how to build trust, learning how to communicate more openly, develop healthy boundaries, learn how to resolve conflict, fight fair, or just make decisions. Contact Dayspring Counseling Services and become a part of the Living Authentically with Self and Others therapy group. The group is going to take place in the Bala Kenwood office at 25 Bala Avenue, Suite 103, and the group will be held on Tuesdays and facilitated by Vivian Good. You can call Vivian at 610-363-2040. Again, 363-2040, or send us an email at www.dayspringpa.com and let us know that you are interested in the Living Authentically with Self and Others therapy group beginning April the 16th and running through May 21st. Dayspring Counseling Services, helping to bring light into the lives of others.
Planning the wedding is easy. Staying married takes hard work. Christian Talk Therapy's premarital counseling series is 5 intensive 2-hour sessions designed to give you the truth about marriage, show you the biblical plan for marriage, and teach you how to work the plan. Our premarital counseling is different from what you receive from your pastor in church. We tailor your premarital counseling series to address the specific needs of your relationship. We help you identify issues that may present a challenge in your marriage, and we help you work through them. We ensure that your marriage is built on a God-centered foundation. At the end of the 5-session series, you will receive a certificate of completion. Call today to schedule your consultation. Christian Talk Therapy, 215-375-7879, extension 44, 215-375-7879, extension 44, or please visit us at christiantalktherapy.com. That is christiantalktherapy.com. Planning the wedding is easy. We want you to plan to stay married. Well, welcome back. I'm Sister Sophia, and you're listening to How's That Working For You with Dr. Suzette and Sister Sophia. If you're just joining us, we're discussing happiness, and we are available to answer your questions live during this show on Facebook. Simply type How's That Working For You with Dr. Suzette and Sister Sophia in the search area on Facebook and join the discussion. We'd love to hear from you. Now, to continue our discussion on happiness, Dr. Suzette, could you tell us what the Word says about happiness?
Well, you know what, Sophia, in researching for the show and just thinking about happiness and just thinking about happiness overall in my life and using the Bible as a way to help guide me through life, the word happiness doesn't come up very often in the Bible. Do you notice that?
No, I did. It doesn't.
It doesn't. There's a lot of talk, though, about suffering. There's a lot of talk about, other, things related to pain. There's also words like joy.
Right. Rejoice.
And contentment.
Peace,
right? And so, like Galatians 5:22 through 23, and I'm going to give you a little bit about what the word says here. But in Galatians, it says, but the fruit of the Spirit, and you guys will probably be able to say this along with me if you know it, because it's very popular. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things there is no law.
Right.
It says nothing about happiness.
No.
It does say joy.
But I think if we had even the first three, we'd be on our way to having a much happier life. What were the first three? Love,
joy, and peace. Yes. And patience.
And patience.
You said and patience.
Let's take the first four.
Let's take the first four.
Those are fruits of the Spirit, ladies and gentlemen, right? We all know the scripture.
Right.
But have the fruits of the Spirit manifested in our lives. See? So this is a cue for you. We know the scriptures, but are they active in our heart?
Right. Are you applying it to your real life? And even self-control. That goes along with what we were talking about our mind and what we think. We can have self-control over our thoughts. And there it is. God is telling us that we have these fruits of the Spirit, and He would not tell us to use something if we were not capable of achieving it.
Right. And, translating the word into your daily walk is something we have to do as mature Christians to show that we have matured. And we need to do that.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
But don't feel intimidated by what we're talking about. I mean, here it is. We're talking about what the Bible says and this and that. Well, you know what? I looked this stuff up. So the same way that I looked it up, and I don't have it necessarily committed to my memory, and I'm not saying that that's a good thing, because I think that you should be armed and have that information. There I go with a should.
Yep.
Probably should say it would be helpful to have that readily available. But one of the things that I do is I will go and I'll find something and I'll write it down on a note card, and I'll put that note card up so that way I can remember it when I see it. And then over time, once I look at that spot where I had the note card, I will just remember that phrase that I had written down, and then I'll be able to recall it more in my life. So I use more visual reminders. I'm a very visual person versus auditory. I don't learn as well from just listening.
Okay.
Just I see things better.
Yeah, I definitely write things down and post them around my house. If I have a scripture that particularly speaks to my issue at the time, I will go on Microsoft Publisher and print up a little poster and put it in a frame.
Oh, that's cool.
And hang it around my office, around my house. If you come in my office, you will see framed scriptures on the walls, on the windowsills. You will see them, because the word encourages us and reminds us of where we should be, what we should be thinking, what we should be doing. There's a scripture that says, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are pure, and it goes on and on to say these are the things we should be thinking on. Not does my life measure up to my sisters, or do I have enough money, or is my job good enough, or am I pretty enough, or will I ever get married? Those aren't the things that we should be thinking on, because those things will not bring you to a state of happiness.
Right. Yeah.
So we definitely have to be careful about feeding our spirit the word, so that our thinking falls in line with what God sees and God envisions for us as happiness and joy or peace. You have to be careful to feed yourself the word that encourages you.
That's right, because if you are not putting something in your head that is different from what you are already thinking, you are only left with your own thoughts. If you don't have anything else impacting you, you're only going to be stuck with your own thoughts. And if you're stuck in a negative place, that's what you're going to keep repeating to yourself over and over again. And one of the things that I like that Isaiah, that's said in the Bible in Isaiah, and I lean on this one a lot as well, is Isaiah 26:3-4, is you keep him whose mind is stayed on you. You keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you, because he trusts in you. Trust in the Lord forever, for the Lord God is an everlasting rock. So what that says to us is, if you just keep your focus on God, keep your focus on him no matter what you are going through, he will keep you in a perfect peace. And I have experienced that in my own life. When I was going through something that was difficult or struggling or extremely stressed about something or worried or nervous, I would just focus in on God, and I just would try to imagine him and just try to feel his arms around me to give me a sense of comfort and peace. And it works for me. So, that's one of the things that it says in Isaiah 26.
Right. And definitely keeping our hearts and minds in tune with God, and, the love of Jesus can help us, and embracing what God says about our happiness. One of my favorite scriptures, now that we're talking about what God says about happiness, one of my favorites is from James, 1st chapter, verses 2-4. Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. And this is one of those scriptures that you really have to meditate on. Again, that's James 1st chapter, verses 2-4. To count it all joy when you encounter trials of various kinds. So when I'm going through my suffering, I should be happy.
That's what God says.
Yeah, that's a stretch, Lord. That's a stretch. But we get to the issue of, well, is joy happiness? Is joy the same thing as happiness? Kind of no. Joy and happiness do not necessarily go hand in hand. You can have joy in your heart knowing that you're suffering for a reason, suffering for a purpose, and that in the end God will get the victory. But it doesn't mean you won't cry sometimes. It doesn't mean that you will walk around with a smile on your face 24/7. I think in the church we expect that. I've heard more than once pastors say, well, Christians shouldn't be depressed. You should be happy every day that you wake up and you got Jesus and he woke you up and the Lord loves you. Yeah, in theory, that's true. But when you're really going through suffering, I'm going to give you an example. Jesus was not happy and laughing when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane getting ready to go to the cross. He was not happy, right? He was crying.
He cried.
until tears or sweat like drops of blood came from his eyes. He was not happy, but did he have joy? Deep down, yes, because he knew ultimately the will of God would be manifested and all of us would be able to be saved because of his sacrifice. And that's kind of the joy that we envision as God wanting us to have, rather than happiness all the time. So one of the things we want to think about is, okay, do you need joy to be happy? Do you need happiness in order to have joy? That's a no. You can have joy without happiness. I don't know if you can be happy without joy, but you may have fleeting moments of happiness, at which point it's an emotion rather than a state of being.
Yeah, and I think that, just hearing you say that out loud, I can see happiness as this come and go thing, whereas joy is just more of this like stable, it's this more stable way of being versus just this fleeting feeling that comes and goes.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I think about. So I thought during this segment I talk about, well, what are some of the things that make me happy? Right? So every day when I go in my office, I have 2 African violets. And for those of you who know about African violets, they are notoriously hard to grow. And I have killed many African violet during my day. So when I bought these African violets, I was hopeful still that they would live. And one day, the white one started to bloom. And I was so happy. I love to see my flowers that I've been nurturing go on and bloom and become who they're supposed to be. Like I love to see my clients. Any client that I have who goes through treatment and I get to see them overcome their issue and go out and get married or find love or have a baby once they're married, or just to succeed in life. Some of my clients have actually become teachers for me. they have overcome, and their tests have become testimonies, and the joy and happiness I feel from seeing God work in their lives is indescribable. So we have to find places where we can have happiness. Find things that brings you joy. So for me, seeing my clients overcome and then get the victory, a beautiful plant that's blooming.
Mm-hmm. Knowing that you had something to do with that.
Right. Or sitting on the beach. Any beach.
That makes me happy.
Right?
Yeah.
I feel happy.
Warm weather, I feel happy.
Yeah. So we have to grab the happiness. Grab happiness and think of it as a momentary thing. If I can grab a little happiness here, grab a cup of coffee and sit outside on the bench and drink it. Try that.
Just that moment of feeling happy.
Right.
But don't let that be your main thing that you're driving towards. Maybe allow joy to be more of what it is that you're seeking versus just happiness. Well, you're listening to How's That Working For You with Dr. Suzette and Sister Sophia. And after this break, we're going to give you some tools to help you gain more joy and happiness in your life.
This is Sister Sophia, and you're listening to How's That Working For You on Gospel Highway 11. Don't miss this next segment. We will be right back.
Do you have a child or relative preparing for their junior or senior prom this year? If so, wouldn't you like to have photos that would last a lifetime of that event? While you're shopping for your daughter's dress and shoes or your son's suit, while you're preparing the menu and booking their limo reservations, why not consider having a professional photographer photograph that special day? With True Vine Photography's pre-prom packages, you'll be able to recall that day weeks, months, and even years from now with one of their professional hardback photo albums. But be sure to order more than one so you'll be able to one day hand that over to your child. Please contact Sean Sims with True Vine Photography at 610-428-6469. That's 610-428-6469. Or contact him at truevinephoto.com. Again, truevinephoto.com to reserve your date. Please hurry, time is running out.
Marriage can be difficult. If you're not happy, don't wait until it's too late. Get counseling. Many couples try to work things out themselves. Not the best idea because you don't know what you don't know. Call us at Christian Talk Therapy and invest in your marriage. Stop the suffering. Don't wait until it's too late. Call today to make your appointment for marriage counseling. And if your spouse won't come, you can come alone, and with God's help, we can help you make changes to improve your marriage. Make your appointment for marriage counseling today. Call 215-375-7879, extension 44, or make your appointment online at ChristianTalkTherapy.com. Don't wait until it's too late.
If you are interested in learning how to live authentically with yourself and with other people, Dayspring Counseling Services has an adult group for you. This group would be helpful for you if you are interested in personal growth, learning how to build trust, learning how to communicate more openly, develop healthy boundaries, learn how to resolve conflict, fight fair, or just make decisions. Contact Dayspring Counseling Services and become a part of the Living Authentically with Self and Others therapy group. The group is going to take place in the Bala Kenwood office at 25 Bala Avenue, Suite 103, and the group will be held on Tuesdays and facilitated by Vivian Good. You can call Vivian at 610-363-2040. Again, 363-2040, or send us an email at www.dayspringpa.com and let us know that you are interested in the Living Authentically with Self and Others therapy group beginning April the 16th and running through May 21st. Dayspring Counseling Services, helping to bring light into the lives of others. Are you feeling down, tired, or depressed? Do you feel stressed or anxious? Does it seem as though you are coping with loss after loss? Dayspring Counseling Services can help. If you have thought counseling might help you or someone you care about, contact Dayspring Counseling Services at www.dayspringpa.com. That's dayspringpa.com. Or you can call us at 610-363-2088 and we can get in contact with you. Don't wait another day to get help. With locations in Bala Cynwyd, Exton, and Paoli, our therapists can assist you with various problems in your life. Contact us today on the web at dayspringpa.com or at 610-363-2088. Dayspring Counseling Services, helping to bring light into the lives of others. And we are back. You're listening to How's That Working For You with Dr. Suzette and Sister Sophia. I'm Dr. Suzette Sims, licensed psychologist and owner of Dayspring Counseling Services. And my co-host is Sophia Avery, Christian therapist and owner of Christian Talk Therapy. You can check us out on our Facebook page at How's That Working For You with Dr. Suzette and Sister Sophia. And we will be answering you live during the show to answer your questions and your comments. And next week, we will be able to take your calls live during the show. And just know that during next week's show, you can feel free to ask us a question about anything that we've already covered. We've talked about forgiveness. We've talked about healing hurts and guarding your heart. We've talked about happiness today and trying, how to grab some happiness and learning how to accept what it is that God has for us is something we're going to touch on today and explore a little bit more.
Exactly. So today we're discussing happiness. And for this last part, we just want to discuss kind of some of the things we can do to get more joy and happiness in your life. And right now we're using both joy and happiness because we see that they are similar. And depending on where you are in your life, it may not be possible for you to have a lot of happiness because of what you're going through. But we're saying you can still have joy because of the word of God is in us and his love dwells in us. So the joy is still possible. Okay? So the search for happiness can cause our unhappiness. The search for happiness can cause our unhappiness because it becomes the thing we seek more than God. So if we want to hang on to some joy and happiness, stop seeking it, right? Talking to myself, right? I'm talking to myself. Stop seeking your own happiness. Joy and peace, as well as the other fruits of the Spirit, can bring happiness as we seek God, right? Joy and peace are kind of the offspring of us seeking God. So seek God. Don't seek your own happiness. That's an easy thing to start doing. If you're seeking a new job, pray about it. Seek it from God. If you're seeking a husband, pray about it. If you're seeking a wife, pray about it. Seek it from God. Don't go out trolling the clubs, trying to do it the world's way, seeking your own. Seek God first, right? In the Bible, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. So a lot of what we seek as Christians calls us to have more unhappiness. So stop seeking. It's not in God's plan for us to constantly be happy. So accept that. It's not in his plan for us to constantly be happy because suffering brings us closer to him and builds our character and faith. You may as well accept it. He has no intention for you to be happy 24 hours a day because how will you grow in your faith? Right?
Right, yeah.
The
then
trying
you don't learn
of
to
your faith.
Trust him and lean on him when you need him.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The trying of your faith is what builds you. And he intends for you to grow as a Christian and mature in your faith. So don't even expect to be happy every day. Grab your happiness where you can in any moment, but don't think it's going to be an everlasting thing. And don't get disappointed when you're not happy. For most people, when we are unhappy, that's when we really seek God with some urgency. So sometimes because you're suffering, you seek God.
Yeah, you do. I mean, I can't tell you how many people, when they're in my office and we talk about it, I'm like, well, have you prayed about this? And they're like, well, no. I haven't. And like when they're trying to make a decision or something like that. But then a lot of times people that are in dire straits, that's when they're calling on God and looking for God to just show up in that moment and not really remembering that he's there all the time. But it's during those difficult times that we do seek him out, and then we can glorify him, because at that point he would have been the only one to be able to get us through. So there's a reason why we have pain and strife and suffering in our life.
Exactly.
There's a reason for it.
And a lot of times we just want it to end.
Yeah.
We want the pain to end. We want the suffering to end. And a lot of times that ties God's hands. When we try to prevent our suffering, or when we run from it, or when we cut it off prematurely, what can God do now? He was trying to teach you something and take you somewhere by allowing you to suffer for a little while. But, we microwave society.
Right.
I've been suffering for a week, Lord.
Been long enough.
I can't take it no more. Right? For a lot of my clients, when they come to me, if they're in marital distress, I ask them to give me a year. Not meaning that they have to come to counseling for a year, but to give me a year and give God a year to do something. Some of them I even asked to give 2 years. And Lord have mercy, you think I'd ask them to cut all their hair off and walk naked outside in the rain. But what I'm asking is just give God some space. Allow him time to grow you and prune you and make you into the person who is able to receive the level of reward that he has in mind for you. Let him grow you up. If you have a child, babies want to walk. Right? When a baby's learning to walk, if the parent always helps them, how will they ever learn to walk on their own?
Right. They won't. They won't really learn.
You got to let them fall. You got to let them sit there and cry and, kind of with their little ways, beg and plead for you to help, and refuse, because you want them to learn that they can walk if they just try it.
Right. Yeah. And all these things that Sophia is telling you is, is exactly what we had mentioned earlier. Sometimes you have to embrace that pain, look past it, look unto God, keep your mind focused on him, and recognize that there is a reason why you are going through what it is that you are going through. Now, I'm recognizing that, we have been talking a lot about happiness. And we're talking about, what it is and where ideas come from and how to accept more of our reality. But I'm going to take you through a few steps of how to be happy. Sophia was just talking about, think of happiness as just like a state of mind or a temporary feeling, not that sense of joy or contentment, which is more stable, but just a way to grab happiness now and then. And so one of the steps is going to be to appreciate and be grateful for what you have. Right. And next week, we're going to be talking a lot more about that topic. We're going to be talking about acceptance and learning how to appreciate and be grateful for what you have. Another step is to believe in yourself. Have positive self-thoughts. Thinking positively about yourself and about your life circumstances is going to lead to positive mood, and then it's going to lead to positive actions.
Yeah, get rid of that stinking thinking. All those negative thoughts you have, got to get rid of that.
That's right. And that takes me to the point of just enhancing your self-esteem. One of the things you can do is create a list of affirmations. And an affirmation is just this positive self-thought or this positive thought that you have. So what I want you to do now, if you're listening, don't do it if you're driving, but just close your eyes and think, if you were the author of a story, if you're writing a story about the ideal you, how would you describe yourself? What kind of person would you want to be? What thoughts would you want to have about yourself? And write them down. Write them down. So, for example, kind of say to yourself, well, you know what? I love and accept myself for who I am. Or I am learning how to love and accept myself for who I am. Or I am created in God's image and he loves me. Or, I'm proud of myself despite my past, or whatever that may be. Another thing that you can do to enhance how you feel about yourself is to act as if you believe in yourself. There's this saying of act as if, right? So you would walk tall and proud even if you don't feel it inside. Say thank you when somebody compliments you and someone says, oh, Sophia, I like your shirt. Like you came and said, oh, I like your shirt. Rather than saying, oh, I've had it for a long time. Say, oh, thank you. And don't push that compliment away. Accept that compliment.
Exactly, and that's true. You have to speak the things that be not as though they are. So if you want joy, start speaking it. Oh, I have joy. Instead of our standard, how you doing? Oh, I'm blessed and highly favored, right? We want to start saying, oh, I have joy. I have peace. Mm-hmm. Start speaking the things that there's some biblical word behind.
Right.
Speak them into existence.
That's right.
Right?
That's
Speak
right.
the things that be not as though they are. That's your faith. It builds you up.
It does build you up. That's for sure. And the other thing, along with that is to not compare yourself. Stop looking at who's skinnier than you, or who's better dressed than you, or whose hair you like better, or, who's faster than you, or smarter than you, or has more money than you. You have a certain set of qualities that God gave uniquely to you. And we're going to be talking next week more about just how to accept those. Another thing that I just want to say is watch how you define it, because we all have different views about what makes us happy.
Right. And you can define it based on what the word says, what joy you have, what God says it should be. And then create a happiness for yourself. Create happiness for yourself. Right. Go and get you some African violets. Go and sit on a beach somewhere. Get you some happiness. If you have a long period without any joy or happiness, it messes with the chemicals in your brain, right? And it will produce something similar to a depressive state. You have to make sure you get some happiness. So Suzette has some other ways for you to get those brain chemicals balanced out.
One of them, a big one, is exercise. Exercise is good for physical and psychological health. It's really important that you exercise. Another thing is related to forgiveness. Learning how to forgive yourself and other people, release the anger and resentment that you might have towards someone. And just like what Sophia is saying, take time out for yourself. Make sure that you spend some time on yourself and try to grab a little bit of happiness. Now, I want to leave you guys with a homework assignment. This is something I want you to work on to help you with this idea of happiness. I want you to identify something that often makes you unhappy. What is something that makes you unhappy? Whether it's traffic or seeing your child's room a mess, the counter cluttered with mail. That's my thing, right? It's anything that lowers your mood on a regular basis. And then I want you to think about 3 positive ways to look at that situation. So, for example, if you're in traffic, maybe you can say to yourself, well, I'm grateful to have a car. I'm grateful to be able to leave from that job I just left from. I'm grateful to be able to be on my way home. If your child has a messy room, I'm blessed to even have a child at all, right? So I want you to identify something that makes you unhappy. And then I want you to write down 3 positive ways to look at that situation. And then just over the next week, you're going to read that list out loud regularly. So every morning, every night, just read it out loud. And over time, you're going to be able to start seeing that situation in a different way and feel less unhappy about that.
Right. And remember to pray and wait. Pray about your ability to see happiness in your life and all of the things that Suzette just mentioned. And then wait on the Lord and let him show you the joy and happiness in each of those situations, even the messy kitchen that I have. I'm happy to have a kitchen.
That's right. And the dishes in there, right?
That's right. Well, I hope you enjoyed our discussion on happiness and joy. Remember, sometimes you will need to speak to a professional to get to the root of your problems and get your problems resolved. Pray and ask God to guide you to the help you need. We just want to thank all of our listeners for joining us today for How's That Working For You with Dr. Suzette and Sister Sophia. We want to give a shout out especially to all of our listeners in Philly, in Alabama, and Kentucky. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Yay! Please post your comments and questions on our Facebook page at How's That Working For You with Dr. Suzette and Sister Sophia. We cannot wait to hear your feedback. And remember, starting next week, we will be live on the air to answer your questions. So join us next week. We'll be discussing how to accept your reality. Until next week, I'm Sister Sophia.
And I'm Dr. Suzette.
And this is How's That Working For You. Be blessed and have a great day.
And be happy. Thank you for joining us today. The information we discussed today is not a substitute for professional counseling. If you'd like to talk to a professional counselor, you can contact us at 215-375-7879, extension 11. That's 215-375-7879, extension 11.
Or you can visit Sister Sophia at ChristianTalkTherapy.com. That's ChristianTalkTherapy.com.
And you can also reach Dr. Suzette at DayspringPA.com. That's DayspringPA.com. Or find us on Facebook at How's That Working For You with Dr. Suzette and Sister Sophia.
Join us next week on How's That Working For You with Dr. Suzette and Sister Sophia on Fridays at 1 p.m. on Gospel Highway 11.